Welcome to Courageous Dialogues, podcast where I try and get to the heart of the matter with people in your community.
How you going?
Yeah, pretty good. How you going? Enjoying Darwin?
Yeah, it's really good. I got my tan back.
Yeah, I bet. You like the heat?
It's taken some time to get used to again, so I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, especially over summer, I guess, or the wet season.
It's the humidity that kills you. Just blows you away.
Much storms and things up there? Or?
Oh yeah, it's pouring down rain outside at the moment.
Oh, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's good when it rains though, because it just puts off all that crappy heat. Yeah.
Ah, yeah. Cools it all down.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for coming on to Courageous, Rohan.
Oh, thanks for having me.
It's funny you have to come all the way to Darwin to interview all the way to Darwin.
Yeah, I wouldn't have minded doing a trip up there again.
So, Have a Ball Foundation. Can you remind me, did you start this back in 2012? When did you start this?
Very good. Yeah, it was 2012. Yep. Yeah. Correct.
Yeah, I remember talking.
11 years, I think, this year.
Yeah, I remember talking to you when you were thinking about getting it started. Yeah, and you've come a long way.
Yeah, it's been ticking along. So yeah, had a little bit of a slowdown with COVID for a little bit, but no, it's sort of back running well. So it's good.
For people that don't know you, in terms of what you do, it's Have a Ball Foundation. You're inspired by a trip to Sri Lanka. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I got the idea when I was on a family holiday over in Sri Lanka, and our first hotel that we stayed at was in a little town called Negombo, which is just north of Colombo, their main city there. And we noticed some kids coming down from school or after school every day. They'd play cricket on the beach, and they just lived in these tin sheds sort of beside the hotel. So the bit of a shanty town there, but they loved their sport over there, and they were playing cricket on the beach every night. And we wandered down, have a bit of a hit with them, and they were quite friendly and let us have a bat. And this happened for a few nights. And then when we went to move on and continue our travels, we sort of thought we'll buy them some new equipment, because they only had a pretty old little cricket bat and a couple of tennis balls and just a block of wood for stumps. So we went down to the local market and bought them some new equipment, and the response was amazing. So it sort of really stuck with me that they were over the moon with just some simple sort of little presents that probably cost us $5 or $10, and they were totally thrilled with what we'd given them. So that sort of impact sort of stuck with me for a little bit, and I thought, geez, it had amazing effect on some kids that don't have much to play with at all. So that's sort of where the idea came from, to start the foundation to help kids with sporting equipment.
Yeah, and so you came back to Australia, you had this idea, and you thought, okay, I'm going to do this. What were your initial challenges?
So you originally think that there's hundreds of charities out there, and collecting money off people is always a challenge. So a friend of mine came up with an idea and say, why don't you approach schools in particular and get people to donate balls, because everyone's sort of got balls lying around at their house, being it a second-hand ball or a new ball. So then I approached my local principal, where my kids go, here in Cheltenham in Melbourne, and she was right on board with it. So we organised a Bring a Ball Day, where kids could just bring a ball along, and anything from a tennis ball or a basketball or a footy. And we took a trailer along and a handball board where they could just throw it through, and had a bit of music playing, and gave them out some chocolates, made a bit of a fun event for them, and the response was amazing. So the school really backed it, and all the kids got behind it, which was great. And so we decided to trial that sort of concept for about 6 months, and went round to a few of the local schools and sort of put the word out, and had a couple of events. And then a friend of mine and myself flew up to Alice Springs and got the balls sort of trucked up to Alice Springs that we'd collected, and we did a trip to about 6 or 7 remote communities, and we dropped all the balls off, gave them a big bag of balls each, and yeah, they were over the moon when we did that. So yeah, it was we proved that the concept was really good, and it was great to be able to help some kids in need. So yeah, it went down really well, and we sort of formally then went and set the charity up from that point on and tried to kick it off.
Okay, so tell me your experience, remote communities in Northern Territory, because you don't just operate in Victoria, it's Australia-wide, yes?
Yeah, so we mainly collect all the balls from Melbourne because we've got our major sponsors called Chem Couriers, and they truck the balls up to any major hubs around Australia for us, which is great. I've done a bit of travel in my early days, sort of a couple of trips around Australia and sort of visited a few communities. So that sort of inspired me a little bit. And getting out to those communities, you really see that a lot of them are still in really third world conditions where they lack sort of the basic amenities that we have and take for granted, and very short of funding and equipment that we have. So so they're the communities I really target, and really target schools that out in those communities that only have sort of 20, 30 kids at those schools. So they're pretty excited when we rock up with a big bag of balls to help them out, and encourages the kids then to get to school. And there's a lot of downstream benefits, I guess, with keeping fit and healthy and exercising and being social. Keeps them off the streets, gives them something to do, and really connects them to their community and their friends. And we also do a little bit of overseas sort of stuff as well. We've sent some balls over to Africa, India, Sri Lanka, and countries such as that as well. So that's always a target audience as well.
And how many balls have you given away now?
We've done, I think, a bit over 63,000 balls we've had donated and distributed to date. So yeah, it's a great effort. There's a lot of fantastic, generous people out there that help us all the time, and without all those volunteers that either help us with an event or collect the balls for us, or especially up places like in Northern Territory, we've got people we can send to, and they distribute out to the communities now for us. So yeah, without them, it'd be really real struggle. So there's a lot of generous people that help along.
So do you still get the same sort of satisfaction that you had in Sri Lanka, like many years after?
Yeah, you do. It gives you a buzz, and I think that's what keeps it going, just to see the joy that it brings. And it's a bit of a two-way street, because not only the people that donate, especially schools, will often feed back and go back and present to the school and show them a video where the balls have been sent, and so they can see that visual of how they've helped other kids in need. And but yeah, you always get a buzz when you go and help someone. It's a really good feeling. But it's great to help people in need, that's for sure.
You talk about, the feel good side of things for this. A lot of people that might walk past someone, think about donating, or one day I'll do this, or one day I'll do that. Tell us about that feeling that you get and why that is important. I guess, maybe a little bit about your background growing up as well. Or did it just come from the Sri Lanka trip?
Oh, look, I've always sort of, it's a good moral. I think I was just typing up some old notes when I did an interview with my mum a few years ago. She's still alive. She's about to hit 92, and I did an interview with her a few years ago just to learn a bit about her background, and just probably her morals and growing up. It's always good to help other people. So I think that's what gives you a buzz, just to be kind and be helpful to others when they need a hand. And it could be just a simple phone call, or checking in with people, or helping people out when they need a helping hand with anything around the garden. Or there's plenty of ways that you can help people. That just always gives me a buzz. But the Sri Lanka sort of thing was sort of the defining moment where that triggered how much of a difference just some simple balls made to some kids there. So that's sort of where it made a difference and stuck with me. So pretty simple thing to do for everyone to participate in.
Yeah. Can you just tell everyone, actually, what do you do for an actual living? You don't have to say where you work, but like, what do you do for a living?
I manage a great little team in education that manage, it's an IT type role. We manage the payroll and finance solution for all the schools. So we bring all the schools on a fairly large project onto an enterprise system, so they can all in one central spot rather than all schools operating individually. So yeah, we've got a team that supports
I just
all
remember
the schools
the
and
payroll element.
yeah, that's been my background in that payroll space and software for organisations and configuration. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So it sort of lends itself to what you need to do in terms of looking at, money and how to distribute things across the country.
Yeah, I've always been a bit of a numbers person growing up, so that's sort of those roles have been fitting.
Can I just ask, because this is courageous dialogue, so I'm just going to ask this question, and I'm going to come back to your funding and how that works, because I know that can be challenging. Obviously, this was courageous of you to put this foundation together and keep going after so many years. What's a time where you've been out in a community where you've thought, okay, that's actually really courageous of that person or of that community, and all hats to you. Can you think of a moment in your travels?
Look, I think I take my hat off to the teachers that work out in these communities, sort of totally removed from the rest of society out in these communities, and they're sort of 200 or 300 kilometres from each other in a lot of respect. And one of the events that we support, which we've been doing for probably 10 years now, is a little community out in a town called Lilla, which sort of out near Kings Canyon from Alice Springs, and they run an event where probably 3 or 4 communities kids come in for about 4 days, and they run a sports and storytelling event there. And it's really the people that are there, I think, are really courageous, that work at the schools and teach these kids. It's a very challenging job, so it's really great to see that the effort that they put in to help these kids as well. But this event's amazing. It's sort of the kids get fed really well. They teach them about sport and drama and just to come out of their shell, and we support them with balls every year just so kids can take a ball home. But yeah, the people out in those communities that are working in those really tough remote conditions, yeah, they're totally courageous in my eyes.
Yeah, I'm so glad you use that as an example, because you're spot on the mark. I think they become the forgotten places in remote communities, the schools and the challenges that they face. So thank you for that example. So let's go back to an organisation where you put together and you rely on funding. I know that, and after so many years, that becomes challenging. What do you find the most challenging in respects to funding and keeping this going, keeping your foundation alive, so to speak?
Yeah, it's, I guess, the biggest challenge. I looked at many times where I could really grow the foundation to something quite large, bigger than I can sort of run it with some other committee members. And the challenge is probably resourcing that and managing the growth. The potential, I think, is huge, where, how many hundreds of sporting clubs there are that we can approach, or organisations that make equipment, or all the schools around Victoria that you can approach. So the sort of potential is huge that we could really grow it. But we've got to then manage the collections and the distributions of those, which is challenging as well. And how do you resource that? Because most or all of us that are on our committee have got full-time jobs, so it's sort of a part-time gig. So it's managing that growth and being able to resource it is the biggest challenge. But I guess from a funding point of view, the beauty of the foundation is that it's all about just giving and distributing balls. So it doesn't rely on a lot of monetary needs as such, other than a few minor things to keep the foundation ticking along. So we always get donations here and there from people along the way, which is really helpful, and we distribute that back out to communities well to help them with broken equipment at their school, or even setting up veggie gardens or buying them some citrus trees so they can feed the kids on site and things like that. So the money gets pushed out to those communities well. So luckily it's just sort of sporting equipment, and we're just facilitating the movement of the donations out to those communities. So it doesn't require a huge amount of money, which is great.
Mm-hmm. And have you grown in size in terms of the people that are supporting the foundation and helping the distribution?
Yeah, so we're always sort of looking for sort of contact points at various various sort of points around Australia in particular. So we've now got that set up. Initially, we were targeting individual schools, which was really challenging. So we had to contact, and we sort of targeted remote schools that are, as I said, that only had a small amount of kids out in those areas. But now we actually have got some volunteers in major hubs like Alice Springs and Darwin. And we can just truck them up there, and they've got a whole heap of contacts that they can send out to those communities for us. So yeah, those volunteers have really helped. So that's how it's sort of grown. We also use Rotary Club. They've got a service called Donations in Kind, where we can send some stuff over to the western suburbs, and they pack everything in shipping containers for us, and they send them over to overseas destinations as well. So that's all a free service that they help us with as well. So yeah, without those people, yeah, it'd be a lot tougher, that's for sure.
Yeah. And so donations, so used balls, new balls, what do you accept apart from a flat ball?
Yeah, no, look, any type of ball, as I said, tennis ball, basketball, footy. We also, the kids love footy boots, so we all throw footy boots, and then we even get sporting clothing, uniforms, basketball clothing and stuff like that. So yeah, mainly balls, and footy boots has been the big hit, and obviously AFL's pretty big in a lot of the areas in the outback back towns. So yeah, that's the thing. But yeah, any monetary donations always help along the way to support the schools out there as well.
And how do people contact you? So they're in say South Australia or Western Australia, overseas. How do they contact you and say, hey, how can we help you?
Yeah, so we're Melbourne based from a collection point of view, so we can only sort of, all the collections will need to be sent here, because this is where our trucking company sort of distributes from. So that's our challenging bit. If people have got donations in other states, we need to really sort of gather them in Melbourne to be able to distribute from as a central point. But anyone that needs balls sent out to their remote communities, on our website there's a contact us page. There's a form you can fill in if you're a remote school, and we just ask a few questions about your school and how many kids and what sort of equipment you'd like, and then we can arrange a distribution out to their school.
Okay. What have been your highlights through all of this?
Oh, look, I think it's just seeing the generosity of people, I think, has been amazing, and just people that have put their hand up to help out, and it's always about your contacts and who knows who, and put you in contact with other people to help out. So I'm just constantly getting emails that someone knows someone that can help out. So just yesterday, my brother-in-law knows someone at a cricket association who's heading up of that, and he goes, send me some emails, and he'll distribute out to all the cricket clubs around local Melbourne area, and see whether all the clubs can get behind it and donate any used equipment that they want to get rid of, and help distribute out to kids in need as well. So I think the generosity of people, and yeah, as I said before, it's always a buzz when you get out in the communities, because that's where you really see the effect of giving to people in need, and just seeing the smiles on kids' faces. That's been the biggest buzz, I think.
Do you play a sport?
Yeah, not nowadays, I don't. So I do just try and keep fit with a bit of running and exercise. But yeah, grew up playing sport, footy and cricket, and a bit of boxing and other sort of things growing up. But yeah, I've always loved sport growing up, and yeah, can really see the benefits of sport with just meeting with your friends and other kids in the community. It's all about having fun and keeping them fit and healthy. So that's sort of a lot about what the foundation's about, just to get kids active and joining with their communities, and it's all about just having fun.
Yeah. Now I know you've got a few kids, so what a great role model you are. Do they help you out, or do they just say, "Oh, Dad, relax a little"? Or
No, I've dragged them
there's
along
someone
many
you're
a
going to
time.
pass down the foundation to in your family there?
Yeah, that's it. There's someone will have to pick it up when I'm gone, that's for sure. But yeah, no, I've dragged them all along to running events here in Melbourne, so they've got a good feel for how it operates, and they've helped me pack bags of balls and things like that and distribute. And I've also taken them up to Northern Territory out and done trips with me as well, so they've seen firsthand sort of what it's all about. So it's a good experience for them, and just to see how the challenges in some of these communities, and as I said, they're a lot different conditions, a lot tougher out there, and we take a lot of things for granted, and the things that we all have here are pretty lucky, I think, compared to some of the other kids. But yeah, it's great to help out other kids in need, as I said, and good for them to actually see all that as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Thank you for coming on to Courageous Dialogues.
That's okay.
Is there anything else you want to leave us with? Or?
No, just a big thank you to all the people that have helped out over the years as well. And yeah, if everyone can just help other people in need when they get the chance, yeah, it'll be a much better place. But yeah, thanks so much for having me on.